back to viewer comments, this time about the Idaho legislature, which you all love to talk about. So do we. Works out great. Well, this week we focused on 6 different pieces of legislation dealing with language definitions like fetus and gender, as well as mandatory minimums. We also touched on arming school employees with guns, calling out deep AI fakes and campaign ads, and expanding the Attorney General's power to the county level. So, before we get to your comments, let's see where all of this is with the legislation. Monday, we kicked things off with Representative Julianne Young, or as she liked to call herself,
I'm a word girl. I'm an English nerd.
Word up, it's word girl. House Bill 400 wants to change wording in state law from fetus to preborn child because Young says the concept is a neutral change that clears up confusion between medical and legal definitions. Others who testify disagree.
This, in turn, potentially makes anyone who miscarries a potential felon.
So they listened, and House Bill 400 was held in committee on Monday. Tuesday was back at it with more words in House Bill 421, proposing to make the word gender mean the same as sex when referring to male or female. But she doesn't want gender to be considered synonymous with basically transgender stuff. Planned Parenthood said that's not the case when it comes to gender and sex. House Bill 421 was printed on Wednesday and referred to the Judiciary Rules and Administration. The Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee was busy on Tuesday with House Bill 406, which does 2 things. Adds fentanyl to the list of drugs in Idaho that carry a mandatory minimum sentence, and creates the crime of drug-induced murder. So if you supply fentanyl and it kills that person, you can be arrested, charged, and tried for murder.
We're going to keep people from dying if we don't move on this.
Despite hesitations from lawmakers like locking up a kid with user amounts, House Bill 406 was sent to the full House without a recommendation for what lawmakers should do when it gets there. So far, it's made it to its 3rd reading on the House floor, which is slated for Monday. On Wednesday, State Affairs introduced House Bill 415, which allows Idaho teachers and staff to have guns on school property instead of hiring guards.
Having more guns in my school doesn't make me feel any safer.
Despite overwhelming opposition, House Bill 415 passed 11-2, right along party lines. Its 2nd reading on the House floor was today. The 3rd reading is scheduled for next week. Yesterday, Thursday, State Affairs Committee introduced us to House Bill 426, which is sponsored by both sides of the aisle. It says any AI-generated ad that impersonates a candidate must be clearly labeled during electioneering windows.
I fully expect that we will see this deployed against us if we don't act now.
The only opposition to this bill was that it didn't go far enough, but still, it passed, was printed today, and is filed for a 2nd reading on the House floor. Last but not least, House Bill 390.
We get calls all the time about issues with city elected officials and other people, and we always have to explain we don't have the authority to do that.
But the bill will change that, expanding the Attorney General's power to investigate city and county officers. House Bill 390 passed without much opposition and was read for the 2nd time today. It's filed for a 3rd reading on the House floor. And that's a legislative wrap. And we'll continue to keep an eye on all of those pieces of legislation and let you know updates on the big ones and, of course, anything else that pops up. But one bill we wanted to circle back to right now was on House Bill 415, and that is the one proposing arming school staff to protect the students. And you all had a lot to say about this one specifically, so just a few again. Here's Andrew Bartline.
Let's see what you had to say about House Bill 415. Robert in Boise said, trained gun carriers were present at Uvalde Elementary. Everyone knows the outcome of more good guys with a gun in that situation. This idea will eventually be regretted. Katie Gray says, let school staff carry, open or concealed, but also be certain they are properly trained. Dave from Caldwell chimes in with, it is interesting that nobody with a concealed carry permit is allowed to enter the building while carrying a gun in order to testify on a bill that would allow them to carry in a school. David in Boise asked, under what level of threat may a teacher use their weapon? If a student assaults him or her with fists only, for example, can the teacher use lethal force? What if 2 students are engaged in a knife fight?
And already here on Friday afternoon, we know there's a lot slated for the State House on Monday, so be sure to tune into the 208 Monday to get the latest with the legislature. And as always, you can text, call, and email us anytime at the contact information on your screen. If texting isn't your thing, no problem. You never know when we'll get to your comment. Plus, if you miss any of our 208 programs, they're all available to watch daily on the KTVB YouTube page in its entirety and on KTVB Plus. We'll wrap up with your live comments in just a minute.